And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of U of L women's athletics. And so we get into spring sports now a little more. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. Certainly softball, certainly lacrosse, as well as women's basketball. What did and what did not happen this week for the Cards. We're proud to have a full house in here today. Case Jared, Jeff, and the notorious Daryl join us on the broadcast. So let's just got to catch up with the gang and see how they're doing today. Let's go ahead and start with that notorious Daryl. Daryl, what's going on? Have you got a buffet lined up for the breakfast bar this morning?
What breakfast bar? I missed the announcement on the breakfast bar.
You pretty much had one last week. So
I mean, last week.
That one. Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. What? Nope, just coffee and water today.
Okay. So
you showed up too late this week, Daryl.
I did. I slept in.
That's a good thing been woken up on Saturday.
I haven't been woken up by an alarm on the weekend in weeks, and I needed every minute of it.
Nothing like that. Seeing the clock, it says 8 a.m. and you decide, nah, I'm not getting up yet. I'm rolling back over. I love that feeling. Jeff in the house with us as well. Jeff traditionally the first one here on the broadcast, and Jeff and I were kind of talking about the softball team. Off to a very good start so far, despite today's action. A lot of new faces in this lineup, Jeff. I'm trying to catch up as I go on some of these.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at at least the starting lineup, and there were a lot of names that I didn't really recognize in there. Pretty much the bottom half of the lineup was like, these are all new names. So, a lot to learn. We were kind of talking about it. Jared and I were kind of talking about it before you joined, Polly, and then you jumped in. And it's been a lot to talk about this morning. Everybody's kind of chatty. It's good.
The Cards, of course, are down in Boca Raton, where my brother-in-law lives, at FAU, playing down there in their Fast Pitch Classic, and some successes early. We'll get into a lot more of that later on. As we've got Case in the house also. Case, is home improvement on arrest now? We just need to know what's going on this week.
No, it's certainly not on arrest. We just were able to finally get my office finished to get my setup put back together, so I was hoping that I'd sound a little less tinny today, but I don't know. Can't tell through the in-ear monitoring here. But we got the nice luxury vinyl plank flooring down instead of the concrete in this office, so should absorb at least a little bit more noise.
So you can actually go in your socks instead of having to wear shoes to go to work. That's nice, huh?
Yeah, still in the office for work, but did get to buy a dock that matches the one that I have at work. So I've officially got a home setup that's just like my office setup. Got a bunch of fun connectors and switches that let me just use my same mouse and keyboard and same monitors and all that. And, it's an exciting adventure.
Do they know if he's home or away? The clients never know with Case. Also, Jared in the house today. Jared, not a whole lot of photography stuff going on sports-wise for the Cards this weekend, but I'm sure you've been staying busy in other endeavors.
Yeah, I was kind of ticked off when I took my camera stuff with me to work Thursday and had my pink on and everything, and then a few hours before tip-off, we found out it's canceled, so that kind of put me in a little bit of a sour mood on top of dealing with I had a cut on my tongue that turned into a canker sore that I've been healing up. So I guess having a couple nights off has helped with that too, because those things aren't fun to deal with.
I know the tongue very important in the operation of a camera, so hopefully heal well there, Jared. We don't want you taking any pictures of your canker sore. I don't think I'll run them if you send them. As for me, I was like you. I was ready to go down to the KFCM Center Thursday night and had even put on my pink shirt from a couple years ago. Was going down already to support the obviously play for K game and such. And then when I just happened to jump online, see what was going on before I got in the car, and then the news hit us that Virginia had declined the chance to come to Louisville and play the Cards. So obviously Not a popular decision by the Cavaliers with the Louisville fan base. There's been a lot of people airing their gripes about that, social media and such, and all, even also on the website. So the Cavs, obviously, the stated reason, which the ACC backed up, was that they had some mechanical issues, and then when they did get a plane that they thought they could bring to Louisville, they couldn't get a flight crew. So when you combine the two, it's a great makeup story, even if it isn't true. It's better than saying, "Oh well, we got to the airport, it was closed, so we just turned around and came back."
You think Virginia might have been like celebrating her coach's birthday? Did y'all see that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, that could have been. That's another aspect we can bring into this. Where they got Tina hammered and she passed out on the couch and couldn't wake her up in time to make the flight. You never know.
I just think it's weird that the social media activity for Virginia, like you said, they didn't say anything up until UofL had already announced it and all of that, and their social media was still like, just happy birthday, coach, and I don't know. It's just a weird situation.
I think that women's basketball, Virginia, is probably not a high priority item this year, based on their 3-18 record.
For most years, honestly.
Yeah, well, they haven't been good, and I hate to say this since Tina Thompson's been there. Okay,
Yes.
and Joanne Boyle, the previous coach, she wasn't bad. She did some good things up there, but we'll see what happens down the road. I wonder I haven't looked ahead to see who the Cavs have next, but hopefully it's something within a 2-hour drive so they can all hop into a bus if they've got to. But
Wake Forest, that's a pretty close trip for them.
that's not a bad trip down there. Yeah, you can make that interstate in a couple hours, probably out of Charlottesville, I would think. But never having made the drive, I'm not sure. We'll see. Anyway, enough on Virginia. Let's hope that they can play the rest of their games without any trouble.
Now, I do want to say I suppose I was wrong in my post from Friday. I was already counting the win and the win column for the Cards, but had to retract that because they said that it was just an ACC win, not an overall win. So I guess I just don't understand the forfeit rules.
That had me in a bit of a quandary too when Walls mentioned that. It's okay, we get the forfeit win in conference, but we don't get it in the overall standings.
Right.
And then Walls brought up the scenario, says, well, what if we just don't play another game?
Yep.
We're number one seed in our region right now. What if we finish at 21-2? Do we still keep the number one seed? Why do we bother?
A legit question.
Indeed. Only the mind of Jeff Walls could come up with that on an impromptu kind of decision. But the time of the show where we normally get into a little scheduling and Twitter information, and we've got Case back in the range to do that for us. So, Case, you got a couple more sports added to the mix right now. Take it away.
Yeah, I do. And fortunately, while I was looking at the schedule earlier while writing, I got the weird misreadings out of the way. So shook off some of the rust. If we look at today, events that are currently ongoing, surprising number for this early in the day, but you've got track is doing split team events. Half the team in Clemson at the Tiger Paw Invitational. And the other half is in Seattle, so nearly as far away as they could be from each other at the Husky Classic, hosted by Washington, obviously. Softball, like we've mentioned, is taking on Ohio State in the FAU First Pitch Classic, the last game of that event for the Cards.
Just ended.
It just ended, Jared says. Sidearm, I guess, stopped updating.
Yeah, I've got it at the bottom of the 7th with the bases loaded here on stat broadcast, so.
Jared's got the insight.
He's got that. They're texting him from the dugout.
Oh, yeah. Taryn Weddle standing out in the right field with a camera direct feed to Jared's laptop right there.
Unless Jared. My sidearm's ahead of yours or just did a weird, funky thing.
Who knows?
It can vary.
Who knows what's going on?
Maybe that might help.
Nonetheless, looks like the Cards are not going to finish the event undefeated.
I'm showing us with bases loaded and no outs, okay?
There's still hope.
I'm holding that hope. Jared is having a dream about this, I think.
I'm gonna refresh my sidearm and make sure they didn't do a little oops on the end.
Just refresh mine, and I've got
intern. Click the in-game button.
Oh, yeah, I do have bases loaded
Oh,
already out.
now it switched. Mine showed top of the 8th and went back to the bottom of the
Oh my
7th.
gosh.
So somebody over there in
We're
sidearm
going
is
back in time.
rushing
Someone
ahead
is
there.
messing with Jared. That's right.
I just gotta ask, am I gonna have to do a tutorial here on how incredibly difficult it is to build a scalable internet service? Because clearly we're having trouble with the concept here.
It's
I
over
just
my
like
head,
how-
Jeff.
I just
Over
like
my
how
head.
the NCAA can't get mad at us for live updates on the air because we don't know
Clearly
if it's
not
live.
all
We
that
don't know what's
live.
happening.
And we're not sure how accurate they are anyway, so what does it matter? Yeah.
That's why stat broadcast is better.
We could be
Unless you're
fooling
trying to
all
watch on TV and follow stats, then it's impossible to
day.
enjoy.
Oh, that's a juggle.
It's like
Yeah.
trying to listen to the radio and watch TV at the same time.
All right, Jared, we've blown your time here, trying to set a personal best, but go ahead and continue with scheduling and Twitter, sir.
Anyway, men's tennis taking on Michigan State. That is away. They're in East Lansing. Women's tennis was scheduled for a 2-team match today, taking on Butler and St. Louis. The event with Butler was canceled, but they are still taking on St. Louis in the Bass Road Tennis Center at 4 p.m. Lacrosse is in Denver. They took on Colorado yesterday. They're taking on Denver tomorrow at 1 p.m. And women's basketball is bringing Notre Dame in for a top 25 matchup at 2 p.m. in the Yum Center tomorrow. That one is on ESPN 1. So I think that's part of is that part of the game day, special game day coverage?
I'm
Jeff?
not
I think
sure.
that's next week.
Is that next week? Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't sure. Monday is an off day for everyone. Tuesday, the ACC Championships get started in Atlanta, Georgia for swimming. That begins at 10 a.m. with the prelims for Tuesday's event and 6 p.m. for the finals. They'll do all the prelims and finals of individual events on the same day. And that event is scheduled to go through Saturday, it looks like.
Is that combined swimming and diving, or do they do those separately at the conference level?
That is a good question. It just says swimming, and I don't see a diving event for the ACC,
Curious.
so I would guess that it's all combined.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I know they're separate for NCAA.
For like preliminary are, yeah, because you have the diving zones
Mhm.
and the swimming preliminaries or regionals or whatever. So yeah. So that's why I asked. I wasn't sure on that.
Yeah, and Louisville's going to host a last chance meet the following weekend to try and get anybody else trying to get some A cut and B cut times to make the NCAAs after the ACC championships. On Wednesday, that ACC championship swimming event continues, and men's basketball hosts Miami because this season just refuses to end. Thursday, women's basketball heads to North Carolina, where they'll take on the Tar Heels. That one is on Regional Sports Network, everyone's favorite. It's at
Good old
6.
Valley High. Mm-hmm.
Gotta love that, like the headquarters of the ACC. You can't put the games on the ACC network there, but whatever. On Friday, softball will start the T-Mobile tournament in Gainesville. They'll get that started at 10:30 a.m., taking on Villanova. They'll later play Florida A&M at 1 p.m. in that event. Lacrosse will split those two matches. They'll play their first home match against Marquette at noon on Friday. And baseball will start their season taking on Charlotte in Tampa at 2 p.m. Saturday, events going on prior to the show, just the swimming ACC Championships final day, and then women's tennis versus Austin Peay gets started at noon on Saturday. As for Twitter, I tweet is at best case scenario. That's BST case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared, and Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. As always, you can keep up with the Twitter widget on the right side of the Cardinal Couple website for all the UofL women's athletics accounts. So that does it.
I did look up the ACC championship on the ACC side. It does indeed include the diving. So
there we go.
Just to check.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
Just honestly, kind of hate the noon starts for lacrosse on a Friday. That's, I mean, if you're trying to get a fan base in there, if you're trying to get some people to come into the game, noon doesn't seem to be the ideal time to start one. However, you must take into consideration the scheduling plans of the visiting team. So I guess that's what's going on there, guys.
Well, they have to get started before the snow stops. As we've noted as tradition, they're taking on Marquette at home, so they have to play in the snow so that Marquette feels the most comfortable while on the road. So they have to start before the snow stops later in the day.
I got to give softball credit here. They figured this out a long time ago. Just go south for a month.
Softball and baseball, they're like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
We're going to do all our work online.
Yeah.
We'll just stay down there. These things where they're like, oh yeah, we're in Florida for the weekend, but don't worry, we're going to come back for the next week of classes and then go to Florida again. No, I don't believe
It sounds like the wealthy retired people who go south for the
They're
winter and come back
snowbirding.
for spring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I refuse to believe they come back. It's a sham. They're just down there doing their homework online and hanging out in Florida where it's warm.
Hey, well, I would.
I would do
Mhm.
that instead of sitting in my dorm room.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just, I mean, if you're a reserve on the Cardinal softball team and they get ready to fly back to Louisville, say, like, Coach, I think I'm just going to hang out here and do some independent study. How's that sound? Okay. I'll drive on over and catch you all in Gainesville next weekend. Have a safe trip. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, volleyball almost did that for 1 week this year. When we had 2 weekends back to back in North Carolina. First weekend we played Duke because I was down there for that, and the next weekend was, I think, NC State. Linda Hampton Keith, who was a volunteer assistant, stayed down there. Of course, I mean, she lives there. She used to be the head coach at NC State. She lives there, so she just stayed there for the week. But, I mean, the rest of the team came back. But,
Well,
yeah.
Jeff tried to do it. Jeff Walls tried to do it with the basketball team over Thanksgiving, and the NCAA
Yeah.
rudely wouldn't let him. So
Yeah, they kind of say, hey, Jeff, not so fast.
he said,
Okay.
guys, I'm just trying to take vacation, okay? It's nicer out here.
Exactly what it is. There's certainly still a lot of good things going on this week. Make sure and catch these. And, of course, you can catch our reports on these on Twitter. We'll normally put up something with a tweet on what's going on with one of the sports. And, of course, make sure and get your daily requirements in and read Cardinal Couple 3 times a day to make sure you get all your nutrients. Check back in and always check out the comments section because people do like to comment on what they've read and what they perceive to be going on. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump on into it. Case 11-18, not bad. Well, not a personal best, but you got it done pretty quickly here.
I
He had
think
some-
we
He had some interference, so
a fair number of interjections.
Yeah, nobody went to the monitor though, so that's good. Okay, we didn't have any delays there.
We need a ruling on blocker charge.
Where's Rex Chapman when you need him?
Right.
There you go. I'm surprised the decanter hasn't jumped into the broadcast and said that the broadcast is under review. The Cards themselves, though, they were playing some hoops this week. But before we get to that, let's go to the Thursday game where West Virginia, unfortunately, was ready to come in here.
Not West Virginia, just Virginia.
No, excuse me, Virginia was ready to come in here. Louisville thought that they were coming in here. The Cards were actually in their pregame walkthrough over at the little, when they found out at 3:30, Daryl, the Cavaliers did not make it into town. And so, play for K, not going to happen Thursday. Game, not going to happen this Thursday. Mechanical and airline staffing issues being the reason here for the cancellation. I don't know, Daryl, are you buying this for $1 or are you going to wait to see what else comes up on the stage? That's ridiculous.
Is showing up on game day normal for a squad? 7 hours is 7 hours, but still, just who wants to be on a bus all day?
No,
If they did have that potential of getting on a bus, who would do it on game day? That doesn't make sense to me, right?
it's standard for teams to arrive the day before for conference play.
Right.
And I think they were planning on it. I think they had this is where I believe that they probably did have mechanical problems on a plane, at which point you start scrambling to line up, backup, or contingency plans. And if those start falling through, then, maybe you give up on it. Now, maybe they don't put quite as much effort into the contingency plans because they're 3 and whatever. I could see that being the possibility, but I don't really doubt that they probably did have mechanical problems on the plane to kick this all off. So
Allegedly, the scenario here was, okay, that plane doesn't work. Can we get another plane? Sure, we can. We'll get another plane, but they couldn't find a staffing crew for the other plane. So
Coach Walls, the U of L program acted like they were blindsided. They're going through their walkthroughs with the impression that the team is already here, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. He said on Twitter that they found out 3.5 hours before the game started. We're supposed to start.
They couldn't even have put a bug in our team's ear that, we're not even in town yet.
That's why communication is so important.
Yeah, they act like they sent a letter via Pony Express and we're still waiting on it.
I think that's why most schools have an SID, okay? A sports information director, whose primary task is to inform people about sports, your particular sport.
Their communications department's still running on Internet Explorer.
Jeez.
As someone who has been forced to switch to Microsoft Edge this week, I resent the statement.
That's too bad.
Not going to Edge. No, thank you.
How much do the SIDs do coordination and information between teams like that, though? My impression is SIDs are more outward facing towards
That's why you have director of operations.
Director of ops, yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's why I brought up the whole Twitter thing and Virginia just tweeting about happy birthday, coach. And I don't expect them to come out and tell everyone we haven't even made it to town for this game yet. But it's just U of L was totally blindsided 3 hours before the game. The fans were upset, rightfully so. I mean, Jared said he wore his pink. I wore my U of L shirt. I was ready for a game.
I had my pink shirt on. I was ready to go to the car.
But I put on sneaks instead of sandals just to be able to go to the KFC Center.
But still in shorts, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This seems kind of not cool by Virginia's program, the way that it unfolded to me.
That's why you need to be more transparent and say stuff, which I understand if you don't want to release something to the fans, but at least too far in advance, but at least have communication between the two programs. Right. And try and get something out there a little bit sooner because you've got fans and we've got a demographic that really likes to get down there super early, find parking, go grab dinner before the game. So they're there 3 hours before tip-off. You've got people who are probably about to get in their car and head downtown. So that's why you need to communicate
huge promo night.
And as someone was pointing out on Twitter, you also got employees down there that are showing up to staff concession stands and ticketing and all of that. And now they're all inconvenienced and possibly out financially. It's a bad situation all around.
Yeah, because a lot of these employees too are hourly employees,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're on salary and they're going to get paid for the week. Whether they show up or not, that's a figure. They get down there at 3, maybe they get out of there by 11 or 10:30 or whatever. That's 7.5 hours that they don't get paid for, because Virginia doesn't have anybody who can make a call to Nick Evans or make a call to Jeff Walls and
or even just send a text message in this.
Right.
Yeah,
young people
don't like doing phone calls. Each other's numbers. You can shoot a quick text.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Coach Walls is kind of gonna be texting every team from now and be like, "You made it to town, right?"
How are your accommodations? Is there anything we can bring over to the hotel?
Now, the part that's still a little confusing is you'll see when teams arrive a day early, they usually do a walkthrough or some type of practice inside the facility. And that's standard for every team anywhere. And so, when they didn't show up for their practice or walkthrough Wednesday afternoon or evening, did the facilities people not at least think, where's the team at? You should start asking questions well in advance.
Other teams.
We probably started that conversation where are they at? And then they were like, "Oh yeah, we didn't make it. We forgot to tell you."
Harold's down there waiting by the media entrance for the team to come in and hasn't seen you guys yet. Say, are you coming? Yeah. Are you practicing over at Valley instead? Tell us what's going on here, right?
Just a crazy way that unfolded.
But it was crazy, and then of course Jeff Walls decides that he's going to have a press conference on Friday, arguably to talk about Notre Dame. There wasn't a lot of Notre Dame discussion on this one, honestly, kids. Jeff Walls decided to take to the pulpit a little bit and talk a little bit about this one. And unfortunately, the saddest thing was before they actually started the presser at 12:30, Walls talked for about 5 minutes with the microphone off to the media in attendance. And I'm not a lip reader, so I can't tell what he said. But by his facial expressions, he wasn't talking about Lola and Lucy going to the park. No, it wasn't that. Walls seemed to be a bit perturbed, but the presser was a good one in effect. And then, okay, let's face it. We all remember or have read or heard about what happened to the Marshall football team years ago on a plane with mechanical issues.
Mm-hmm.
A very tragic event. You don't want to take a chance with that plane, but lo and behold, they've got another plane ready. Oh, we can't take the crew from that plane and put them on the other plane?
Presumably, it was a different aircraft type. The crew may not have been type rated for the other one, but I don't know. I'm guessing here.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, you do have to be licensed to fly certain types of planes or work certain types of planes and aircraft.
As someone who was subject to staffing shortages, notably for flights, I will extend grace to people who are unable to travel due to such a thing, and definitely will believe that it was the case. It's unfortunate. I mean, it is 7.5 bus hour ride. I understand, like, not wanting to do that as an option, but if your flights were scheduled to leave Wednesday night and then you couldn't get a staff to do one, like, it wouldn't have been that hard to charter a bus, but at the same time,
and
traveling
on a bus
overnight
case, it's
by
going to
bus
take longer anyway. I mean, I think you got to stop and eat sometime during the trip. Okay.
Well, your Olympic sports do it all the time. They don't fly nearly as much.
Buses aren't zipping 89 miles an hour down the freeways either, too. Okay.
Right.
I would say an 8.5, 9 hour trip at the minimum, because you got to.
But if you're leaving at 10 p.m. for an overnight, I mean,
but then you run into
it's not the end of the world. I mean, they can sleep on the bus.
The trick is if they're heads down trying to solve the flight problems, thinking they have a plane lined up, thinking that they're going to be getting a crew, the window of opportunity for hopping on a bus may pass before they realize it. So
that's true.
Yeah.
In any event, a game that did not take place, the Cards did get the forfeit on it, though, which, as we mentioned earlier, counts in the ACC standings, but in the NCAA standings, of course, forfeits don't go on your cumulative record. Another thing that just kind of baffles and confuses me, but, that's the NCAA. At least the ACC seems to be the ones that have more intelligence in this situation.
But the NCAA just loves handing out asterisks to Louisville.
That's true. And Virginia's probably saying, thank you, NCAA. We didn't need another loss on our schedule. That's fine. Thank you. We'll take the conference loss. We're all for conference anyway. It's not that it matters, okay?
Well, at first, we didn't know if we were going to get credit for it at all, and if this was just going to be a presumed win that would have lost on our schedule, or we could have gotten screwed over in terms of the final standings with NC State and ACC and everything.
That's true. There were other ramifications at play here.
So I was not a happy camper for that reason.
I kind of get the rationale, right? Because automatic qualifiers are based on standings. It's just straight up standings. So a forfeit can influence that, like the situation we were in. So, okay, you give them credit to reflect that they were there and able and ready to play. But that's not the case in the NCAA. The tournament selections for at-large stuff is all eye test and subjective things anyway. So the standing of a game like that isn't necessarily going to have any real impact on selections. So I kind of get the rationale. Still kind of crazy, but
also in this context, I understand that if the teams were different, like if this was, I don't know, Notre Dame. If this was Notre Dame and Louisville's like, well, now we can't get the opportunity for a top 25 win, like that would be unfortunate in the NCAA perspective. But hey, I think it's much ado about nothing because literally no one would have cared if Louisville beat Virginia in the national conversation. Like literally, it
He would
was
have got
there
no
was
talk.
no benefit to Louisville playing this game legitimately. Like the only thing you could do is look bad and win. And then the worst possible outcome is an upset, which I don't suspect would have happened. But I think that it's a lot of stink about nothing. The ACC has granted you the win in conference, so you don't fall behind NC State, and NCAA wouldn't have cared anyway.
Yeah, it's I had somebody at work tried to schedule me a meeting late in the day on Thursday, and I was like, "We need to make this a little earlier. I got to be heading out the door to go to an event." And then so they moved it an hour earlier, which is great. They were all, Then we get on there like, yeah, the event got canceled at the last minute. So we were talking about it, and I said, yeah, it was a UofL basketball game, women's game, and they're like, well, I guess at least you all get the W. Is it? Oh, we were gonna beat this team anyway. It's like
like there was any question.
There's really no doubt.
At least
upset of monumental proportions should the Cavs come in here and beat us on 4 hours sleep, right? Anyway, that's what didn't happen on Thursday. Let's go back to something that actually did happen on Sunday, where the Cards traveled up to the Orange Dome to go up and play in the Carrier Dome against Syracuse. Louisville scoring 50 points in each half, Darryl, putting away Syracuse 100-64. A balanced scoring effort for the Cards. And Liz Dixon, a career high 18 points for Louisville. Certainly a great win for Louisville up there in Syracuse land.
Oh my gosh, Liz Dixon's on fire. She is a silent killer right now. Which that game on Sunday is like part of the reason I just thought that this squad was just itching to get back out there and play and build off of that. And I think I texted in the group, play the game. I didn't care like if it was a makeup or whatever. This team wants to play. They want to go out there and build off of the previous showing. And Liz Dixon is just a huge anchor for the Cards. And Haley had that good game last week, and she was good on Sunday, but she didn't outshine anyone else. And she was the 5th best scorer for the Cards. So it seems like this squad, every player is starting to come into their role and become more consistent and efficient scoring, or whatever the team needs. They're there, and 100 points, that's a good day.
It was a return for Emily Easler to the school that she had spent playing at Syracuse before she came to Louisville. Easler with 11 points in the game. As we mentioned, Dixon had her 18. Kiana Smith had 16. And Alana Smith, no, not her sister, but had 13 points. Chelsea Hall and Emily Easler with 11. And then Haley Van Lith with 10 in the win. The Cards shot 53% in the game, Jared. That's pretty fine shooting, Tex.
Yeah, our offense has been the bright spot of the team these last few games, after the defense has been the kind of the star of the show for the first 2/3 of the season. So it's nice to see that the offense is finally starting to find their rhythm, get a little groove going on. I'm happy with it. And when you see different players each game step up and have strong showings, it just makes this team that much harder to scout. I mean, you can go in the beginning of the season and you kind of laid out, these players are the ones we need to really focus on. And then you have someone like Liz Dixon, like Darryl was praising earlier, who stepped up and had a really strong 18-7 showing, or Alana Smith posted 13 points on that one. And then the other day where Mikasa Robinson just had a really good game. And you've got all these different players that you never know who's going to go off and have a really great offensive game or defensive game or just all around. So at this point, Louisville's one of the hardest teams to scout just for that reason. You don't have 5 or 6 players to worry about. You've got 10, 11 players that you really got to watch some film on to understand what they could potentially do. And that's what's going to help Louisville in postseason.
And just piggybacking off of that, which is a huge difference than last season with, Dana Evans being the focus. And I feel like in the preseason / beginning of the season, everybody's like, Coach, what are you going to do without having a Dana Evans on this team? And now we're literally seeing everything that Coach Walls has preached come together.
Yeah, it forces other players to step up. You can't just sit back and ride off of somebody else's stardom and what they're putting out on the court for you.
For sure, indeed, the Cards have got many, many talented players, and you never know which one is going to come in and put the beat down upon you. A game against Syracuse where the Cards led 65-50 after three quarters. Haley Van Lith having a great game so far, but then the fourth quarter came around and Case Louisville exploded for 35 points in the fourth quarter. 14 for 21 from the floor, holding Syracuse just to 14 points. The curse of the bad fourth quarter has been temporarily erased, I do believe, sir.
Yeah, I mean it's great to see, um, like you mentioned, the Louisville's sluggish fourth quarters kind of um be eschewed a little bit in this one. I think they kind of needed it, losing the second quarter and then a very poor third quarter, I'd say, by Louisville standards, at just 15-11 to a team like Syracuse. So usually you get that talking to at halftime, but I would say that the huddle between the third and fourth quarters was not a pleasant one to be in. And I hope that children in the vicinity of the Louisville bench had their earmuffs on. But for the Cards to come out in that
Why
fourth
was it
quarter,
cold, Case? Why would they
yeah.
need earmuffs?
Well, notably the Carrier Dome doesn't have heating and air.
Does have heating.
Yeah.
That's like naming a stadium Taco Bell Stadium and not selling food. Okay, I
Yeah,
mean, come
no
on,
tacos.
let's at
But
least
yeah,
they
they came
group a
alive.
couple big ass fans or something, right? Something, anything, but no.
They came alive and were able to put that together. And then just like you guys have mentioned, Liz Dixon, just fantastic, perfect from the floor in the last two games.
It's amazing.
You can't really ask for more than that
It's
from.
amazing.
So it's not like she's been like 2 of 2 in each game either. She went 8 for 8 in this one, 6 for 6 in the previous. She's doing good work down there, and it's great to be able to turn to someone in this situation. Like Olivia Cochran has definitely stepped in and kind of made the center position hers on this team, but Liz Dixon is getting nearly as many minutes with the 2016 split in that last game. And she's not just contributing offensively, picking up 7 rebounds to go along with it, and playing well with a block and a steal on defense as well. So,
And Jeff Wallace has come out and said, he could take the road and say, well, it's because I've told her to do this, and it's because she has finally learned out of our coaching that this has to happen. Wallace gives all the credit to Liz. She's been the one who's gone out and done the work. She's the one that's working on that turnaround jumper. She's the one that's been working on her footwork to be a little bit faster. Because Liz has been putting in the hours, and that's why you're seeing her perform the way she is. I think that's what you got to do at this time of year. Instead of trumping what you're doing as a coach, talk about the players improving due to hard work and dedication. Right.
And the other thing is do you guys think that this UofL team, is on anyone's radar on the national scale? Because watching that South Carolina versus UK game the other night, they brought up the question, South Carolina ranked number 1, who is the squad that's going to give them the most trouble? And they went automatically to Stanford, which,
Of course.
But didn't even mention UofL. So I was just curious if you thought UofL was on anyone's radar this year.
Well, I think that the Cards would be best served, Daryl, by putting South Carolina on the free throw line the entire game. Because that was one of the most pitiful exhibitions of free throw shooting in South Carolina's game against the Cats that I've seen in a long time. I mean, that was ridiculous. I think the 5 of us could get together on an outdoor gym in sub-zero weather and probably hit more than they did. Jeez.
Hey, I think Emily Enksler has no problem with that game plan. She'll go out there and foul them all.
Or end up throwing snowballs at the backboard. She would. That would be fun to see. Yeah, and South Carolina. Okay, let's admit it. They do have some very good players, and they were minus 2 players in the Kentucky game. Let's bring that in mind. Out practicing with their national teams, but hey, still. This was a blowout until Kentucky decided to make it interesting late and get back into it a little bit. But South Carolina's got a Leah Boston, and I think you got to start there.
Yeah.
But she is definitely All-American, All-Conference, anything you want her to be. She's an amazing post for them. Anyway, with Notre Dame up next, that'll happen Sunday at 2 p.m. and at the KFC Center, Super Bowl Sunday. So I would think, the Super Bowl's not till 6:30. I think you'd get a pretty good turnout for that game, right? And if Cards fans come down, have some fun, watch that, and then get home and have plenty of time to get to their Super Bowl parties or to get in front of their TVs and warm up the chicken wings, get the bowl of chili out, and watch the Super Bowl. Notre Dame comes in, though, a Notre Dame team that's been playing very, very well, Jared, and also has Olivia Miles and Sam Brunell. They've got some forces on this team that could definitely give the Cards a run for their money Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, you mentioned the name I was going to go to immediately with Olivia Miles. And especially as a freshman, I noticed she had graduated early and she was able to kind of play that COVID year, the back half of the COVID year last year with them to kind of get her feet wet. But even as a true freshman right now, she sees the court well. She plays well. She's comfortable out there. I mean, as a freshman, she's scary, and I'm not looking forward to having to play against her the next 3 years after this either. And she's been one of those to really power this Notre Dame team along. And they really haven't missed much of a step since Muffet left. So we'll do a little bash at Muffet real quick, and I guess maybe she's not the savior of that program, and the only reason they were good all these years.
Don't worry, she'll bash right back.
I'm
Next
all
opportunity
for
she gets.
Muffet
Right.
bash.
She loves to bash us on ACC Network, so you got to throw
Every
something right back
time.
at her in her face.
She never misses a chance.
But
Yeah.
Notre Dame is a scary team because they've come out and they've just fallen flat in a few games this year, just out of nowhere, and then they'll turn around and look like a potential Final Four, Elite Eight caliber team, and you're like, well, who are we going up against today? And Notre Dame's a really good team just overall, and they're not going to be a cakewalk Sunday. So in a way, it was maybe a blessing to have Thursday night off just to help some players get a little extra rest, or this late in the season, you got bumps and bruises. It's an extra day off just to kind of recover and heal up. So maybe we'll have some fresh legs ready to go against Notre Dame, and maybe we can beat them by 20 plus. That would be nice.
I would be very tickled with a 20-plus win over Notre Dame because they do tend to like to play us quick and fast and to the point. But and just a quick update for you in case you were worried about it. Ohio State did beat the Cards 8-5 in the final game down there. The Cards, though, did have 2 on and 2 outs at 8-5, and
It was a good rally. Showed
Yeah.
final runs win, but came back nice from an 8-0 deficit to
Yeah. And I guess not a run roll.
No.
You
Good.
gotta be proud of the not sitting down and giving up when it was 8-0 deficit and really kind of pushing back and fighting. So that's something that we haven't really seen in the past few years. So I want to give softball credit just for that, even though they lost. Just to see them actually really kind of put forth the effort and try to come back to win.
And hopefully something
Amen.
if I can get it done this week, something to ask Holly April about is you've seen this team play 5 games. They're 4-1. They don't give up. They battle back. They fight hard to the final out. Just talk about what's going on with the team, and I'd also kind of like to ask her about the preference of new players in the lineup and see what she's seeing there. And Holly will look at me and roll her eyes and go, "Why do you always ask me the tough questions?" So.
If this is your transition to softball, I am more than pleased with a 4-1 record to start the year. And I know we played some not great caliber teams with Florida Atlantic and whatnot, but we got the win against Indiana and then turned this Ohio State game into a close game. And with some sports,
you mean
I don't
you
mind
weren't
those.
thrilled with the 14-0 mercy rule over perennial powerhouse Bethune-Cookman?
Hey,
I
win's a
understand
win,
Cookman
but
That
didn't
didn't
show
light
up
your
for the game.
candle?
I don't
Cookman
mind
didn't
playing
show up.
a couple of those bunny teams early on. I mean, you play 40 plus games when you get to softball, and the mindset of playing a couple bunny games to start the year just as a way to kind of get a good feel for how the season's going to go, but also a good confidence builder. Hit the ground running that way. It is nice. Plus, having those wins on the record early on looks nice, and you can get your fans a little more involved. But I'm not disappointed in the Ohio State loss at this point.
Yeah.
A couple big games next week with Florida and Duke while they're staying down there in Florida area, and that Duke game will not be a conference game. It's just a regular season game at this point, but they'll be challenged a little bit more, so we'll get to see more how this team's going to handle that.
Yeah. And while we've cracked the door on it here, let's just go ahead and walk fully into the softball room. And the Cards did start out with 2 wins against FAU, as we mentioned down there in Boca Raton. The first one kind of a pitcher's duel here a little bit, huh? 1-0. Don't know, what had delayed the Cardinals' bats from getting there, but they certainly made up for it, in their next one. And then
Plane
uh,
troubles, mechanical
yeah,
plane troubles.
it was the umpires didn't show up in time, so they had to go up into the stands and get fill-ins, right? Yeah. But Cards taking 2 over FAU, the host of the tournament, on a Thursday, and then of course yesterday the Cards. Bethman Cookman, like we mentioned, Bethany did not show up, so it was only Cookman out there, and they had some trouble with that. But after that one, a 14-0 win for the Cards, 5-0 affair. IU, the Hoosiers were next, and Louisville under maybe a little bit of pressure on this one. The Cards did those start out guys, in case you had the right up on this, jumping out. Taylor Roby with a 3-0 lead, but she didn't quite breeze through the Hoosiers, did she now?
Yeah, Indiana was definitely ready to put up a bit more of a fight than Bethune-Cookman was in the first one, which I think they would have been happy to have just ended it with a mercy rule after 2, as the game score would have allowed. But yeah, Roby got herself into a little bit of trouble with 2 on to open the inning. A couple of errors didn't help. Brought both of those runners in. She didn't really have her best stuff to open this one. Ultimately, was able to settle in, get ahead of Indiana in a way that Indiana's pitchers were not able to stay on top of Louisville once they got further into the number of lineup turnovers. But she gave up a couple of unearned runs, a couple of earned runs, gave herself the lead that she would not yield with a home run in the fourth inning. Third inning, sorry. She gave herself that 4-3 lead with a home run in the third inning, and then the grand slam to give Louisville the insurmountable lead there in the fifth, before Roby was ultimately pulled when she started the sixth with another base hit. So she managed to cobble it together, helped herself out significantly on the offensive end. Like I mentioned, the solo homer, but also another hit, another run scored. So definitely good to see Louisville's offense helping them win games, and pitching not throwing it away like has sort of been the case recently. And good to see Louisville, even though FAU is, a 12-35 team from last year, 0-3 so far this year. And Bethune-Cookman not great, but good to see Louisville winning in different ways. And like we mentioned, they didn't win today against Ohio State, but you come back from down 8-0 to give yourself a chance at 8-5 in the bottom of the seventh. And then against Indiana, faced some adversity and were able to pull through that opening game, like you mentioned. A pitcher's duel, able to keep their composure in that one. So it's good to see through 5 games you've already played most of the ways that you're going to play a game, and won almost all those ways. So we'll just see if in the future, hopefully they can avoid going down big like they did against Ohio State, but in the future if they can recover from a big deficit and manage to turn around and win that game. But I'm encouraged by this season.
New faces, Daryl. New names and new faces to learn. We've got a Lotus and an Otis on the team. I love that combination.
Oh my God, I didn't even put that together.
That's right. Kendall Smith, a new
That's
name
hilarious.
for us as well. Maddie Grant. But they are producing for the Cards. It looks like Holly has done well in her transfer portal recruiting aspects here. We got to catch up on some of these names here.
No, that's what I'm looking at the roster right now, trying to see where we are in these the classes for these players, because I swear COVID's just thrown me all off. Got a lot of
I
seniors.
haven't been out to Omer in like 2 years now,
It's weird.
right?
I know
Yes,
it
I
feels
made just a couple trips last year, and that was it.
Yeah.
like a time warp. doesn't it? Because who was I thinking of? Rebecca Chung is a senior, you all. What?
How did that happen?
That's
How did
just,
this happen?
that's crazy.
Mm.
But we talk about these new names. I'm really excited for this roster because I feel like it's a true Holly April roster. We've mentioned the names that we're most familiar with. Taylor Roby. He's probably going to be leading the charge offensively and defensively for UofL all season long. And then Carmen Greenwood is finally. I think Carmen's going to be what we really hoped Celine Funky would be in her senior season. And that's no knock on Celine, but there was some offensive struggles. She got moved around in the lineup from being leadoff hitter to moving a couple down because she just wasn't producing. But I really think Carmen Greenwood's going to come into her own. She already shown glimpses of that in these first couple games. And we're going to see. I didn't get to actually see these games, like watching them on field. We have the recaps and the stats we can follow, but I really am interested to see the base running and just how aggressive they are on there. Just no room for errors. Just keep scoring, run that tally up, and get some wins this year.
I want to jump in just real quick, just because she mentioned Carmen Greenwood. I really love the way that Holly April has constructed the lineup so far. I think that she probably will keep with it because of the way that it's worked out to this point. But Carmen Greenwood is like your fast, contact hitter that you're going to want on base all the time. And I love the choice to not make her the leadoff, but to make her the second or the 2-hole, so that you can get a player like Easton Lotus on base pretty frequently because she can reach on.
Yep.
She can reach on errors. She can reach on walks. She can get there, and then you've got the dependable Carmen Greenwood to help bring that in or advance her. And then obviously following that up with Roby. I really love that construction instead of trying to put a lot of weight on Carmen Greenwood to be the leadoff hitter and be on base for Roby by the time, that 3 spot comes around.
Great point. I haven't seen Easton, but I'm assuming she's speedy.
Yes.
Yep, I would think so.
She's a very Maddie Newman style player.
Nice.
Actually, really close to same height and same body build and same position. So it's like taking Maddie and putting her right back out there in second base, which is a good
making
thing.
her a freshman again.
I think when you look at the speed of those two players, Lotus and Greenwood, they're best. I guess that's best displayed by the fact that Lotus opened an inning with, or maybe not opened the inning, but she got on base with a double, and then Carmen Greenwood went to sack bunt her to third and bunted to the third baseline, and then Lotus made it to third, and Greenwood ended up on second base. So,
wow, trickery.
That's fast.
It's weird, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Cards will return home and then head back down to Florida, going to Gainesville, home of Florida, next week for the T-Mobile tournament. So if you head down there with your Horizon or Sprint phone, you will not be allowed admission to the game.
I think Sprint will get you in since they're owned by T-Mobile.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. You'll probably ask you to do an upgrade, Jared. I'm a case. That's the only thing I can see is over. Now you need to trade that in before you can get in. Look at this. Good start for softball. Excited for them. Let's see how they do down there at University of Florida.
In a conference game.
Absolutely, yeah. Going to see what happens. And there's Cards have shown that they've got some pitchers that can go out there and get the job done. It'll be interesting to see what type of rotation that Holly comes up with for that one.
I just remembered the ACC champs, correct, Duke?
Yes, they were. Matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well,
That'd be great.
And they've
this
got
count
Male's
as a
old
conference?
softball coach. It is not counted as a conference.
Not
game.
counted as a conference.
Oh, interesting.
Didn't Duke just join?
They're a relatively
Softball
newcomer
recently?
to ACC.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 years
softball,
ago.
sure.
Them and Clemson are both on the very new side.
Yeah.
Also, I will note that Duke loves to play non-conference conference games. Them and North Carolina. I mean, the North Carolina even did one in football this year. And you played a non-conference conference game in football. That's insanity.
What?
There's only 12 games.
Yeah, well, they know how to get to the stadium. They're familiar with the visitors' locker room. Come on, it's just a no-brainer. It's just like, do we want to go out to Washington State or, hey, we could go to Wake Forest, a lot shorter trip.
Yeah.
So good things
More
for
likely to
softball.
actually make it there too. Oh, God,
Yeah,
can't get off that topic.
Mechanical trouble with the bus, guys. Get your thumbs out. We're hitchhiking over to Winston-Salem. Lacrosse also got their season started yesterday. Went up to Colorado, and now did they not play this one at Boulder? Case, I thought that they may have played this one in Boulder, and then they go to Denver Sunday.
No, I'm pretty sure they were both in Denver.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, I guess we'll find that tomorrow when we look at the ground there and see.
Oh, no, you're right. It was in Boulder.
This is
Sorry.
listed as Boulder in the
headline.
recap and schedule.
Yep. Sorry.
It's not that much difference, though.
Yeah, it's not very. It's like an hour. Or
Yeah, I mean, it's no big deal. It's just Louisville
Boulder's-
and Lexington, no difference there, Jeff. Right? Yeah.
That's probably closer, actually. I think Boulder's
Great
almost
point.
it's like a suburb of Denver.
It's like
Yeah,
driving
it's one of
to
those
maybe
cities. It's one of
Frankfurt.
those cities in Colorado, Denver or whatever.
Oh, Paul zinged him.
Colorado Springs, whatever it is.
It's funny. I actually have a friend who was on his way to Hawaii, and this snowstorm that ultimately moved this game inside stranded him in Denver as part of a connection for a little bit.
He should have gotten to a cab and gone down to Boulder. Then is all I can say. Lacrosse coming at an interesting game in the fact that yes, it was snowing quite heavily in Boulder to start this one out, and that snow continued throughout the first quarter, almost like one of those kind of like blizzards, almost you might call it. After one quarter, they stopped the action, they huddled, and they decided, you know what? We got this indoor practice facility. It's right over there in the corner of campus. What say we all go over there? Everybody in for that? Yes, let's go do that. So they actually changed the venue after the first quarter. Louisville leading 3-2, but unfortunately, even though getting to overtime against Colorado, the Cards lose this one 14-13 in the last second of the overtime. A tough break for Louisville indeed, but certainly a game where we saw Hannah Morris come out with 4 goals. Jeff, I was encouraged to see the way that we were playing against this Colorado team. We'd beaten them, I think, last year here, but unfortunately, it just didn't turn out to be a win for us.
No, it was. Didn't get to watch it. Obviously, you didn't have streaming on it, but at least I didn't get to see the part of it that was streamed. It was back and forth a lot. The score. I was kind of looking at stats updates and everything, and I was very impressed. This is a very good team. They have been for a while, and it was competitive at least, which is, that's a good outing, I think, initially. Hopefully we can tune up a little bit better as the season goes on, but it's a good start.
The change of venue did not suit the Cards so well, though, as they actually were trailing 12-9 going into the fourth quarter. Were they out of gas? Were they out of luck? No, Hannah Moore said, I don't think so. Cases, the Cards came back and actually took the lead in this thing with 1:10 to go, but unfortunately, they did not win, and it went to overtime, where Lacrosse overtime, like we've read before, is a sudden death kind of thing.
Yeah,
and they took it down to the sudden death too.
Definitely. You could throw your conspiracy theories out of the home team getting a whistle to get a free position shot with 3 seconds remaining in the game. You can do that if you want, but you would also need to look back at the fact that they were granted a free position shot with like 6 seconds left in the half to go up at halftime too. I won't say any more about it. I'm just kidding. This Lacrosse game, the scoring was absolutely insane. Both teams kind of refusing to lose. It took a while to score in both the first and second quarters, but if you take out those 2 big chunks, then the average goals were like 2 or like a goal every 2 minutes, something crazy like that. Both these teams back and forth, like we said. Louisville ties it, with 2 minutes left, and then Colorado's like, well, wait, you weren't supposed to do that. We were up by 3 going into the fourth quarter, so they scored again, and with a minute left, and thought that they would, still get out of there. And Nicole Peroni, who had scored the goal to tie it for her 4th of the game, then said, you know what, I think I'll score a 5th. We'll tie it again. See if we can't keep playing this game. I have to wonder if the players that are not from Canada and adjacent areas had to convince Teeter and Morissette to agree to move the game indoors. Scott and Kay are just like, I don't know.
Out of Jersey. Nicole Proney is just one tough lacrosse player, and Jared can back me up on this. She would have said, "What do you mean? Why aren't we playing in the street, dodging traffic? Come on, y'all! Jeez, what's going on here? We're
That
going
sounds kind of
indoors."
fun, actually.
Scott and Kay are probably like, "What's the matter, guys?" And it's just some snow. What are we worried about?
Teeter was
But then they would apologize for it because
Yeah.
Teeter was out there in his shorts and flip flops. Going, what snow?
and his bucket hat.
And yes, he did have the bucket hat on. That was
Yeah.
determinable. But the Cards, obviously with a new goalkeeper as well this year too, Jared, and I know that probably had to maybe have a little effect on what's going on. Rachel Floric, unfortunately, decided to move on to other things. Did not take the year she had available to her, and so the Cards kind of getting close to finding somebody new in a very important position on the team, Jared.
Yeah, there's quite a few replacements that we're looking for, and keeper with Floric, as you mentioned, is the biggest replacement that we've got to work with on this one, and it may take a little bit of time to kind of get settled and figure out who that's going to be. But you've lost some other kind of key players from last year as well. You had Alex McNicholas was one of them, Allie Hall.
Yeah.
Right, you had a couple of your big time players that have graduated, and we were fortunate to get both of the Blaylock sisters back. So it's something, and I'm happy to have both of them back. And it's just we're going to start seeing more and more players that are going to have to come in and step up and fill in those bigger roles. And I think the big thing this year is going to be really focused on defense. If you're giving up 13, 14, 15 goals a game, you're not going to win a ton of games. So we really need to limit that and see if we can't find some single-digit allowed games this year.
Always a fun post-game interview, too, when the Blaylock sisters are present and pitting them against each other during the interview. That's a lot of fun. It's a good thing Teeter sits between them. That's all I can say. The Cardinal will head down to Denver, a 1 p.m. game Sunday against Denver University, a team that I think was getting some recognition in the top 25, if I remember correctly here, gang. So certainly a tough one back-to-back for the Cards, but road trips make you stronger, don't they?
I believe Denver is currently ranked 14th.
There you go. So, yeah. I think the Cards are like 24th in maybe RPI or something. But that's probably going to drop a little bit. In any event, let's hope that they can go out there and go to 1-1 against Denver tomorrow. Wow. A few of us will be down at the Center getting ready for action. I don't guess there's any TV on this that I've seen, so we won't be able to watch it while we're
none listed.
Okay. But just to take a look at the clock here, and we're already past the noon hour, so certainly have talked about a lot of good things today, covered a lot of territory. We'll go ahead and segue on into our final thoughts. And Case, we're going to let you start out with final thoughts this week.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to the well of the joke we kept making and just point out that when I Googled Charlottesville to Virginia to see the drive time earlier, one of the top Google hits was 5 quick and easy ways to get from Charlottesville to Louisville by plane, train, or automobile.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that may be clickbait because I think to do it on train, you have to get on
it's
a
an
freight train.
Amtrak. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you take the Amtrak, but let me tell you, as my my method to get to Louisville from Chicago, one of the options was Amtrak, which was really just take the train to Indianapolis and then get on a bus.
Yeah.
So not great.
I think John Candy and Steve Martin made a movie about that, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles years ago. But, good thoughts there indeed. Daryl, what do you got for us on final thoughts?
Oh, I don't know, guys. Talking about the Olympic sports going on, and I've been watching the Olympics. I don't know if you all have. I feel like everyone on the ESPN and all that stuff, nobody's hyping up these games. They're all acting like they're not interested, but if you turn those things on, don't tell me you're not interested in watching these players or these athletes zoom off a hill on some skis or snowboard and like look like a flying squirrel in the middle of the air. I
Super
am
G
so
is the most
entertained.
terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life.
I know. I don't.
Oh.
I can't wrap my brain around it. Like, how will you do this the first time? And I've seen a couple crashes. I've seen a couple disqualifications. I saw the U.S. almost medal in the biathlon, so it's pretty interesting to see the U.S. and all the other athletes from across the world communicate and just come together through sport, which is a universal language. So turn the Olympics on. It's really fun and interesting to watch. And happy Valentine's Day, guys.
Hey, there you go. That's right. 2 days away before that one day a year that commercial marketing tells us we have to be nice to our sweetheart. Hopefully you are the other 364 days of the year, but you, at least, if you don't do anything on Valentine's Day, then you're in big trouble those days.
You're getting the cold shoulder.
That's right. Jared, what you got for me?
I don't really have much. I mean, I guess to mirror Daryl real quick, at least U.S. is tied for third right now with 5 gold. So that's good since we don't typically perform as well with the Winter Olympics as the Summer Olympics. But I'm happy to get back to the KFC Center, and if somebody could communicate with Notre Dame and make sure that they are on the way right now, so we've got plenty of time to get this shit figured out, that would be fantastic, so we don't have another fiasco.
I think Jeff Walsh has got Muffin's phone number. He could probably,
Coach Walls went and picked him up himself.
Hey, that's fine. I would love to see Walsh driving the bus up there with the police escort, making sure they get here.
That would be hilarious. He would do it. He would.
It's only about 4.5 hours or so to get up there.
Leaving Olivia Miles standing on the curb with her luggage. Oh, no, we don't have room for her. We got to go. Let's go. Jeff, what's going on? What you got for me?
Yeah, just in quick reference to the Olympics, I've been watching, probably the main sport I've been watching is short track speed skating.
Amazing.
Particularly the relays, because they're such glorious chaos, right?
It's beautiful.
Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. You have no idea what's going on the ice. But otherwise, yeah, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting a chance to get out to Ulmer here. They're obviously down south right now, and I think at least the first 2 weekends here in Louisville, I'm going to be out of town. So it'll be a little bit later into the season before I get out to you, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's always just delightful to go and spend a few hours out there and enjoy soaking up a little sunlight, vitamin D.
Indeed, and to keep a track of the foul balls that are over there on the
That's right.
Roof. Yes,
The Cougar Center, yeah.
Looking forward to that as well. And while we're on the Olympic kind of vein, I really look forward to the Olympics each 4 years and the winter ones because I get to renew my love with curling.
Curling is fun. I've enjoyed that for a long time.
Fan favorite.
I've been watching that, and I like the way the different teams, the different approaches that the different players take toward it. And it is my sworn manifest destiny to go down, and once we've determined who our new athletic director is going to be, I'm going to put a petition on his or her desk saying, I want curling to be brought to Louisville as a D1 sport.
I think you got to go to Indianapolis and talk to the NCAA first.
Well, that could be 5 years from now. I'd be waiting for an answer from my initial meeting.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I have plenty more questions before that one.
I think we drop down to D2 then.
Yeah, Paul shows up.
Or the NAIA curling.
Yeah, I'm not sure
could
it's
do that.
Sport at any level of sponsored sport.
I don't know if it is. It'd be a fun research for next week to see, but certainly we'll be doing curling tryouts later on today. We're supposed to get down below freezing, so meet me at the corner of Shelbyville Road and Lynn Station, and we will be. No. Certainly had a great show today. Thanks everybody for listening. We're glad that we got the time to spend with you, and certainly we'll be back next week at 11 a.m. for the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour. In case you know something we don't, let us know so we don't show up, okay? Mechanical issues, or maybe the personnel won't be there. Everybody have a good one, and go Cards.